Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Blue Tron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. Well, we've had another week to see where the metagame has shaken out, and we're trapped in this brandishless waiting room of a format for another 10 days, so I figured why not take this time to check out the other quote-unquote dead deck in the wake of the most recent ban list, Pendulum Magician. So here's the list, and shouts out to Meepmoto27 along with some others in the Mono Blue Tron Discord, links in the description, for helping me with a deck that was truthfully quite foreign to me. Still, shockingly, not a lot has changed since we last encountered this archetype. As always, I'll give you a little bit of background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So firstly, for those of you that don't know, Pendulum Magician is a deck that deserved to be good. It waited. All through Zodiac format it waited for the general power level of cards to go down, and lo and behold, they did. A lack of natural enemies, along with the release of Heavy Metal Foe's Electromite, propelled this unlikely hero to the forefront of the format. While the deck was intensely resilient in-game, it was similarly resilient to ban lists, surviving the banning of Double Iris Magician thanks to the extremely synergistic power of Electromite and Astrograph. Until last week. With the banning of Astrograph Sorcerer, the deck is now missing one of its most critical combo pieces, and without the ability to just plus all the way to infinity, it's going to have to... play fair. Thankfully, there's still a lot of stuff we can do, and there's certainly some new tools we can use to flex as well. We're all in on the monsters that make it possible to make Electromite without wasting our Pendulum Summon, Curtain Raiser, Chronograph, and Darkworm, as well as loaded all the way up on the level 4 Magicians. Harmonizing is a jack-of-all-trades in this build, fetching either 4 stars for utility Xyz monsters or synchros, Oaf Dragon for Naruto overlays, Zhangzi for Absolute Dragon and Vortex plays, or even Time Gazer for Dragster. With this setup, we should easily be able to fetch enough material for 2+ negates when uninterrupted, and at least a Dragster or a Time Pendulum Graph when hand-trapped out of our opening play. More importantly, as decks begin to shave Ghost Ogre for more relevant cards against Brandish and Goki, our chance of resolving Electromite's effect goes up astronomically. So with that, let's take a look at the card by card. First, we've got 3 Chronograph Sorcerer in order to get Time Gazer and prevent us from having to normal summon a dang thing, 3 Black Fang, 3 Purple Poison, shocked that he has remained unscathed to be honest, 3 Harmonizing, 2 Oaf Dragon so we can summon one and use the effect of the other, 3 Wisdom Eye Magician, 3 Darkworm, 2 Gate Zero so we've got the 7 material necessary for Absolute, 2 Curtain, and 1 Zhangzi. For hand traps, we've got 3 of the only one that matters, Drollenlock Burb, and for spells, we've got 3 Desires, 3 Duelist Alliance, 2 Pendulum Call, 1 Dragon Shrine, and 1 Foolish Burial. For traps, we have that old standby Time Pendulum Graph. In the extra, we've got a rank 4 suite full of utility, a copy of Time Star, Supreme XYZ, Tornado Dragon, Abyss Dweller, Naruto, Absolute, and Lynx. 3 copies of Electromite and 1 copy of Metaltron for those absolute rank ups, Dawn Dragster, Omega, Ignister, Supreme King Crystal Wing, and Vortex Dragon. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Blackwing, and this really showcases the resilience of this deck. You can see that my opponent has opened a Ghost Ogre, probably the best hand trap against us. Let's see how well we can play through it. We'll start by activating this copy of Pendulum Call, discarding Supreme King Dragon Darkworm to the graveyard, then reborning it to get a Supreme King Gate Zero to our hand. We're then going to normal summon a Wisdom Eye and go into Electromite. Its effect activation is going to trigger the Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, but we'll send a Chronograph to the top of our extra deck, after which we will Pendulum summon that, an Oaf Dragon, and a Harmonizing Magician, getting a Zhangzi from our hand. We're going to go into an Electromite, popping our Supreme King Gate Zero to return the Chronograph, triggering the effect of Chronograph, special summoning itself and the Gate Zero, and we will still end on the board of Metaltron, Vortex, and Naruto. Just really impressive stuff. Our opponent's going to start by activating this copy of Black Whirlwind, which is of course target number 1 for Naruto, especially against Blackwing. They're then going to special summon a Gale the Whirlwind with a Steam on their side of the board. I will negate the effect of Steam because I don't want any other rank up plays occurring. They will go ahead and walk over our copy of Vortex Dragon, but that's not too much to be concerned about since we can walk over everything remaining on their side of the board. We're going to set Gate Zero that we added back to our hand, then Pendulum summon a whole bunch of guys, destroy both the Wisdom Eye Magician and their copy of Apprentice Witch, then attack for lethal. Our second match is up against Trickstar, and I'm not going to pretend like this is the most optimal build in the world. It certainly is not, but I will let you know that myself and every other Trickstar player currently living in North America are desperately grasping at straws, trying to find the spice that will make the deck good for Nationals. I don't think that spice is Sanctuary of Parshath and a bunch of counter fairies, but I could be wrong. We're going to start by activating the effect of Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser, getting it to our side of the board, normal summoning a Black Fang Magician, and going into Electromite. Afterwards, we're going to get Veilered, so we're going to have to play through Hate, but that shouldn't be too difficult with scales like these. We'll Pendulum summon 3, one of which is a Harmonizing Magician, allowing us to get a Time Gazer from deck, so we can go into a Tornado Dragon and an FA Dawn Dragster. Our opponent's going to start by normal summoning this copy of Candina, getting themselves a Trickstar Light Stage to their hand. We'll chain the effect of Tornado Dragon to destroy said Light Stage, and then they'll activate a copy of Sanctuary of Parshath, easy money for this FA Dawn Dragster. They'll set 3 and pass it back to us. Unfortunately, they can now activate these traps after I go to blind MST. We'll go ahead and negate this Trickstar Reincarnation and destroy, quaking, what a sack. Afterwards, we'll use the effect of Heavy Metal Foe's Electromite, draw into a Pendulum Call, which prompts the final reincarnation from my opponent. We draw into a Pot of Desires, and I kind of bungle the remainder of this turn, forgetting, of course, that there is actually text on Pendulum Call, and I'm not able to perform a Pendulum Summon by popping Wisdom Eye Magician. Nevertheless, we're going to be satisfied with this normal summoned copy of Dark Worm. We're going to get every single copy of Trickstar Reincarnation out of our opponent's graveyard, then set this time Pendulum Graph and pass it back to them. They draw into a spell, they'll go ahead and activate Dark Room of Nightmare, which we can easily negate with our now level 1 FA Dawn Dragster. Then when they move to combat, we can destroy their existing Trickstar Candina with our time Pendulum Graph effect. And from here, the game's effectively over. One thing this deck does not suffer from is an inability to assemble lethal. We'll Pendulum summon as many big beefy boys as possible, use their effect just to rub salt in the wound, then get in for 2500, 2100, 1800, and lethal. Game 3 is a quickie against Hand Trap Burning Abyss, and as the name implies, our opponent has found a hand trap. Kind of frustrating to see the Effect Veilers and the Ghost Ogres coming out when I'm playing this deck, and those cards are being shaved in real life. Regardless, we are going first, so there's not a lot I can complain about, despite wanting to. We'll start by setting this copy of Black Fang Magician and firing off a Duelist Alliance, getting a Pendulum Call to our hand, and bidding this copy of Dark Worm so we can bring it back and get a 0 to our hand. We normal summon the Purple Poison and go into Heavy Metal Foe's Electromite, which gets Veilered, but we should have enough in our hand to win the game from this position. We'll go ahead and return Purple Poison to our hand, then Pendulum summon 2 7s and a Harmonizing Magician. That's going to get us a Time Gazer from deck. We'll go into Absolute and Metaltron, proccing Absolute's effect, getting us a Vortex Dragon and ending on a Dawn Dragster. Our opponent's going to start by normal summoning the Snow they have in hand, targeting the Vortex. We will happily negate it. Afterwards, they'll go ahead and fire off this Pot of Desires, which I will negate with a Dawn Dragster, and finally they'll end with this Soul Charge, but unfortunately, special summoning an Effect Veiler and a Snow is not enough to win the game. While the majority of our games have been quite short, they become even shorter once you no longer have to account for hand traps. Our opponent is playing Paleo Frog, a deck well known for not playing anything particularly reactive from the hand, and we're going first. Let's see how far we can go. We'll start by setting this copy of Chronograph in our Pendulum Zone, then destroying it to get a Time Gazer Magician from our deck to our side of the board, normal summoning a Dark Worm so we can get a 0 to our hand, setting 2 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician, ending on an Oath Dragon to return the Wisdom Eye to hand and a Black Fang. We'll then make this Heavy Metal Foe's Electromite, destroying Oath Dragon to return Chronograph Sorcerer to our hand. We will then special summon it and the Supreme King Gate 0 before setting this Wisdom Eye Magician into a Purple Poison and Pendulum summoning 2. We get to end on the Naruto plus Odd Eye's Absolute Dragon board. Wow, incredible. Our opponent, I can't really blame them for this, but they concede. And as we've worked up the metagame ladder, our last match is going to be against Spiral. Spiral is an incredibly powerful deck, especially with the inclusion of Nightmares, that has the ability to make almost unbeatable boards going first and without interruption. You'll notice that both our opponent is going first, and we have opened no interruption. One of the main weaknesses of Pendulum Magicians is that it requires so much devotion to its main deck strategy, that is having a critical mass of Pendulum monsters, that it can be hard to find room for hand traps. Our opponent's going to fire off this copy of Terraforming, getting a copy of Spiral Resort to their hand, which they will use to get a copy of Spiral Drone afterwards. They'll normal summon that, use its effect to shuffle the top 3 cards of our deck, special summon this copy of Spiral Super Agent, go into Double Helix, get themselves a Master Plan from deck, and get a copy of Rescue. Now this is one of several rescues you'll see. Rescue, of course, can be pitched by any of the Nightmares. They're going to use that to shuffle the field spell back into the deck, then go into Mermaid, getting themselves a Master Plan from Grave with Rescue and an Eebly. Afterwards, they're going to get another Rescue, go into Goblin. Goblin allows you to discard one more time, so there goes the Rescue, and Eebly's coming to our side of the board. Oh boy, well there's something we're going to have to get rid of. Afterwards, they'll use the effect of Resort to get a quick fix, which they'll use their extra normal summon for, use Rescue for a Master Plan one more time, getting another Spiral to their hand, and then they'll go into Trigate. You've probably seen this before. They're going to bring back Quick Fix, and at this point they probably can't complete the extra link, but just turning on Trigate may be enough to beat us. They're going to go ahead and get a Troymare Phoenix, which is more than enough to activate the Trigate Wizard, then they will end on a Sleeper with Last Resort backup. We have a lot to contend with. The first thing we're going to have to do is try and bait out this Trigate activation. We don't get it, so we'll go ahead and suicide this Eebly before using the effect of Darkworm. Darkworm is going to get a card to our hand, then we'll go into Electromite, which does prompt the Trigate. Okay, we should still be able to perform a pretty rad Pendulum summon with so many cards in our hand. We get 5 of them, a lot of 7s, I might add, 2 of which will be immediately destroyed by this Spiral Sleeper, preventing us from going into any absolute trickery. But maybe we can still make something happen. Electromite shows up, and afterwards we can, I don't know, go into Clearwing, but unfortunately Cerberus prevents any of their destruction, and that's really just going to be the end of the game. So we're back with the deck, and I have a lot of thoughts, but it felt alright. I've got 3 problems with the current strategy. 1. It needs disruption. One of the reasons Pendulum got away with being hand trapless for so long was because it could chew through any board, but I think those times have long passed. Droll is a start, but I think we need to find room for, dare I say it, Ash. 2. We've got to have some way to interact with big Nightmare boards. With Goki on the rise, we can't afford to have a windmill-slammingly bad matchup at top tables. If that means playing something awful like main deck Kaiju, so be it. And 3, unfortunately a lot of the cards that hate on Brandish, Anti-Spell, Imperial Order, etc. are also quite good against us. This means we don't get the rogue benefit of not having to play through hate. So that's that. Unfortunately not exactly as good news as True Draco, but I'm still hopeful. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time, and if you want me to look at a certain deck or archetype in a future episode of this show, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you Monday.